Welcome to episode number 4 of Guy Talk. I am your host, your friend here, and head ambassador for Katie's Mission, Joe Pizzimenti. I want to welcome you all, and first and foremost, wishing you all a very happy and blessed new year as we head into 2021. I have a very special guest on tonight, but before I bring him in, I just want to let you guys know that you can go to katiesmission.org. That's Katie's with an S, mission.org, all one word, and check us out. You know, we like to think of ourselves as, ambassadors, angels with boots on the ground, just here to provide resources, to provide awareness, and end the stigma around mental illness and suicide prevention. At Katie's Mission, I decided as head ambassador to start this monthly podcast called Guy Talk. It's very important, in my opinion, that especially men speak out on their issues. I always say it's okay to not be okay. And I'm bringing on a bunch of gentlemen that are just telling us their story and their journey. It's very important that we understand that it's okay to have these conversations, these tough conversations, especially in today's world. So, like I said, go to katiesmission.org. We cannot do it alone. If anything that you guys can help us with to donate, support us, we are here to create awareness around these issues and just provide resources, which we're able to do. We also have on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, we have a support group that's very confidential. You can go there if you want. It's on our mindfulness page. I will post a link in the comments at 9 o'clock every Thursday night. Just go there and you can speak and just tell what's on your mind. So, and that's men or women. That's anybody that needs that platform. So without further ado, I want to bring on my guest today. It is a very dear friend of mine, a brother, somebody that I've gotten to know very well over the years. He has an amazing story. Paul Akins. Paul, first and foremost, Happy New Year to you. I want to thank you so much for being on. I am very humbled and very privileged to have you here. Thanks, brother.
Happy New Year, Joe. And thanks for having me. It's, what you guys are doing is, first of all, I got to say, pretty amazing. Katie's story, for anybody who doesn't know it, go to Katie's Mission and read the story. I know Katie is Kim's sister, who she lost to suicide. So that's part of what we're talking about is, it's real, and people lose people every day to suicide. And, as guys, we were kind of taught, you're a New Yorker. I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah.
We're tough guys, right? And like you said, okay. It's okay not to be okay. But that's not how we were taught growing up. Suck it up, be a man. We don't get depressed. We don't have anxiety. We're not afraid. And to talk about that, when I was a kid, that was a sign of weakness. And up until really recently, I still believe that. So, I have found some strength through, what you're doing and the awareness, and through just beginning to tell my story, some of the things I've been to. Knowing that you're not alone is probably one of the biggest things that can be a help when you're going through some of these issues. And, finding that there were other people that have been through similar things that I had been through helped me so much. So, hey, if I can share my story and that helps somebody else know that they're not alone, and gives them the courage and the strength to reach out for help, why not? I'd be doing a disservice if I didn't, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way. I kind of feel like for a while there, I was being selfish by not speaking out, right? By not telling my story, because even if there's one person, Paul, that hears our story, that it just helps them, it might save their life. It might save their marriage. It might save their business. It might save anything. So we are selfish if we don't speak about it. And I grew up the same way. I felt like I was weak. I kept everything inside. I mean, this isn't about me, but I can definitely resonate with that and relate to what you just said before, because it's so true, especially as men. We're taught, be tough. You shouldn't feel weak. You should feel strong by telling your story, right? We should be able to tell our story. And if we're not okay, we should be able to say that, right?
Yeah, you got it, man. And
so why don't you tell us about yourself? Tell us where you've been. This is about you. I'm here to just ask questions and just listen. I mean, I know your story. We've spent a couple of weekends, right? traveling together and training and growing, right? But we've also had some deep conversations and kind of gotten to know each other very well. And your story is so inspirational, and the main reason why I wanted to bring you on here. So why don't you share it with the world, man?
Well, I appreciate it, Joe. And, I got to give a shout out to somebody who we have both spent a little bit of time with, our friend Ray Higdon. He was the guy, when I heard his story, he was the one who said, other people need to hear your story. And that hit home with me. And that what made me really start to think about sharing it. So the place I like to start is my 34th birthday. It was August 12th, 2001. And I'm lying on my floor late at night, begging God to take my life. And, I'm in a place where I just can't take the pain anymore. I'm tired. I'm battered. I'm bruised. I'm broken. I've been abused. I got nothing left to give and no reason I can think to go on because I just can't take the pain anymore. But I was raised Catholic. Suicide would have been a mortal sin. And I was too scared of hell, man. So I just couldn't do it. But I begged God to take me. And I was drunk. I was high as well. I woke up in the morning and I guess I kind of took that as a sign that maybe I wasn't supposed to die. And obviously, I'll be 54 this year. So I wasn't successful in that wish. I woke up and I guess in a way, the part of me that wanted to die because somehow the pain was a little bit lifted. And I know not everybody's that fortunate, but I made a decision that day that I was never going to feel like that again. I have, a philosophy in life. I'm the eternal optimist. I choose happiness. Happiness is a choice and it's a series of choices. And I always see the good. And that started the day that I woke up alive. Now, it wasn't overnight. It was, I had to train myself to do that. But as a kid, how did I get to that point where I wanted to die? I was a pretty happy, well-adjusted kid from all outside perspectives. I had a beautiful life, man. White picket fence in Lower Hudson Valley, New York, just an hour north of Times Square. I could see the city anytime I wanted, but there were hundreds of acres of open farmland in my backyard. It was a great place to grow up. I was a happy, enthusiastic, curious kid. I loved school. I was getting good grades. I was starting to become kind of a natural leader in Cub Scouts, CYO, really enjoying getting together with groups of people. But then something happened in my life. Somebody came into my life who was a sexual predator. My parish priest groomed me from the time I was 12 years old. And it took me a long time to come to terms with the fact that that wasn't my fault. I blamed myself for a long time that I allowed it to happen. I didn't tell anybody it happened. I allowed it to happen over and over again. And it damaged me. It damaged me pretty severely. Started crashing and burning at school. The kid who was the top of the class was now a discipline problem. I was in the principal's office every other week. Almost got kicked out of school by the time I got to high school. Got referred to a professional counselor based on a school administrator who I hated because she wouldn't leave me alone. In hindsight, she was looking out for me. She knew there was something wrong. My parents couldn't figure out what was going on. And I visited this psychiatrist twice and convinced him that everything was okay. I was just a normal kid having normal problems and acting out. I was smart enough to know what to say. And it just didn't get any better. By the time I was, a senior in high school, I barely graduated. Could have probably got into a lot of colleges, but my parents said, you're such a screw up. You got to prove yourself at the local community college before we even think about helping you pay for college. I wanted to be either an astronaut or an engineer. That was my dream. I was either going to build rocket ships or roller coasters, but I couldn't handle the local community college and living at home. By this time, I was a full-blown alcoholic, binge drinker. I was, getting drunk every chance I could, taking chances, living through things that I'm surprised I lived through, man. Grateful I did. But I knew something had to change, and I knew I couldn't change it myself. So what did I do? The kid who couldn't handle discipline, I joined the Army. There's a really good choice for you. I figured if I couldn't straighten my own shit out, that maybe the Army could kick me into shape. Found out pretty quickly after basic training and some of the more intense training that you go through. Once you get stationed at your permanent duty station, drugs and alcohol are just as readily available as they are anywhere else in the world, if not more. So years of living that lifestyle, a couple of failed marriages. Part of what I went through because of the abuse I suffered was some depression and anxiety. I went to college after the Army and did good enough my first 2 years that I got a full ride scholarship to NC State as an engineering student to enroll as a junior, and then crashed and burned again because I was involved in this cycle of self-sabotage. You know, a lot of us that have dealt with addiction, mental issues, understand that cycle, because somewhere deep down inside, either we don't think we're worthy, or in my case, I was afraid of success because, and I didn't realize this till years later when I got therapy, I had somehow subconsciously decided that my success, my doing good in school, my starting to become a leader was what made me a target for abuse. So every time in my life that I started doing really good at something, I found a way to screw it up, blow it up. Dropped out of college, 2 divorces, taken all kinds of chances, got arrested for DUI. Thank God I never went to jail, but it was pretty close. I could have gone to jail or died. And then that's where I ended up, where I started the story, laying on my floor begging God to take my life. Because everything had just gone wrong. Like I said, at this point, I was a college dropout, 2 failed marriages, had been arrested, was using drugs, alcohol, running with people that, you know, were scary. I look back on what my life was like at that point. After I decided the next day to start making changes in my life, I went back to the place I came from about 6 months later, and my neighbor told me, don't even go to your house, because it was now run over with drug dealers and prostitutes and car thieves. And my house had basically become a crack house that my ex-wife was still at. But I decided to leave the state and start over. And that was kind of the beginning of my journey to leave behind that pain, desire to not live anymore. And when I moved back to New York, I met somebody that you've gotten to know pretty well. You know, my angel, Tracy, my wife. We've been together for 18 years now, been married for 13, going on 14 years. And she was the first one I told this story to, that I had been abused. I wanted to make a change. And long before we became serious about a relationship, anything other than friendship, we became best friends. One of the things she did that saved my life was encourage me to get some counseling. And I went to therapy, learned that it wasn't my fault that I had been abused, that wasn't anything that as a 12, 13-year-old kid, I had any power over to make those decisions, because I was manipulated, used, and groomed by somebody who was really good at it. It took a while to get to the point where I was comfortable even talking about it. I think this is only the second time that I've told this story in a public forum. So, you know, I appreciate you give a place to tell it. But fast forward, met Tracy. You know, she was my best friend, my lifeline, and my anchor, helped me. You know, as Jack Nicholson says in a movie, you make me want to be a better man. And that's kind of what she did for me. I already decided I was going to become who I really knew I could be, but was my strength and my courage when I didn't have any to help me get there. And since then, had a very successful career. You know, I now have a job that I'm happy with, that I enjoy what I'm doing. I teach apprentices for a regional apprenticeship program. I love learning. I love teaching. And Tracy and I have a successful business together that, you know, she was the first one that introduced me to personal development. You know, I used to laugh at Oprah and Dr. Phil and Tony Robbins and all of those people, you know, but she was the one who started introducing that into my life. And it's made a huge difference in who I am. And it's made a huge difference in the direction of my life. So today I'm happy. I'm successful. I have a great wife, a couple of great stepkids, you know, a career I'm happy with, a business that is allowing us to do things we never could have imagined before. And I'm really hopeful about the future. And, you know, really glad to have met you along the way, brother.
No, absolutely. And wow, I mean, that was a lot. I want to thank you, you know, coming forward and telling your story. One thing that stuck out to me, and I want to get your thoughts on it, you know, when your parents said basically that you weren't worth it, that you couldn't go to college and all that stuff, how did that make you feel? And number two, you know, you said you didn't start getting counseling until you met Tracy. So you had to deal with all that pretty much by yourself for so long, even into your, you know, adulthood. Wow. I mean, for me personally, I started counseling when I was 8. I give you so much credit for, you know, for being here today and telling this story, because it's such an inspiration to me that you got through all that. You know, Tracy, I know, has been huge for you and a huge part of your life and has changed everything for you. And, you know, we need people to believe in us before we could believe in ourselves, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I know she was that person for you. So, you know, I want to thank her for that as well, because, you know, we wouldn't have met if that didn't happen. So just talk a little bit about it. What did that made you feel like with your parents and all that? Because you probably didn't have a voice, right? If I'm hearing correctly.
Yeah, I didn't think I did. In a way, I knew they were right because I was going to screw up college no matter where I went, So I knew they were right. And logically, it was the right thing to do to say, hey, we know you want to go to college, but you're going to do this first. They did what they could. They knew something was wrong and they couldn't figure it out. They knew that their little kid who, was the genius of the family, always curious, always into math and science. They knew something was wrong. And I know it hurt them. And I know the decisions I was making hurt them a lot. They just couldn't see what it was that was causing the damage. And Joe, I didn't see it. I never connected my behaviors, my depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation and wanting God to take my life. I never connected that to the abuse. That was, I had buried that. That was something that happened that I got over that I didn't need to worry about anymore. And when Tracy and I first talked about it and she said, you should probably think about some counseling. I was like, I'm okay.
She's like, I'm a man. Listen, I'm good. I can handle it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that happened. I moved on. I'm good now. And she's like, you might want to think about that a little bit more. So, it would be easy to be angry at my parents and say they didn't get me the help I needed, but they did what they could with what they had. And I would give advice to any parent out there. If your kid suddenly has behavior changes, like I did a 180. I went from the perfect freaking golden child to a nightmare. And when that happens, something's wrong. And don't stop digging until you find it. I don't care how hard the kid rebels. I don't care how hard they fight back, because I didn't want anybody to know what was going on with me, so much that I was in denial. When they got me to counseling and the counselor was digging, there was no way he was going to find it because I had buried it so deep that I wasn't going to tell anybody. So when you see those behavior changes in your kids, dig deep. Don't stop.
No, that's great. That's great advice because, we have to listen to our kids, right? And they have a voice. We have to let them have a voice. And it wasn't your parents' fault, right? No. It wasn't your parents' fault. And I'm sure you didn't, I don't know if you blame them in the past, but I know you don't blame them now because you understand it and you understand where you were. I think of it as, and I say this all the time when I talk to people, you have to scrub your soul, right? You have to figure out why you went down that path. Because like you said, you did a 180, right? You weren't, for me personally, I had issues from day one, right? But for somebody like you were fine, right? Like you said, and then all of a sudden you flipped. And it took you a long time to figure that out. And I'm sure the personal development had a lot to do with that, along with Tracy. So, kudos to you for that and working as hard as you do to better yourself on a daily basis. I know how hard you work, you and Tracy, and it's very admirable. So, as far as the counseling, are you still in counseling? Is that something you still do? Or
I'm not going regularly anymore. I do occasionally if I'm feeling that I need something to get back on track. I was in some pretty intensive counseling for about a year or so to help me over that initial realization of, oh, wow, maybe this did screw me up a little bit more than I thought, but I still deal with some anxiety and some depression. Overall, like I told you earlier, I've made the choice. It's a choice for me that I am always looking. I'm a super optimist, when it comes to, and I've said this to people before with, you get the whole, is this half empty or half full? Right. I sincerely believe the question's flawed. It's 100% full. Half of it's liquid, half of it's air. I need both. So by even thinking that it's half anything, I already started out well below where I could have been. So, that's how I look at the world is stuff's going to happen. And no, I don't believe that everything happens for a reason. I might upset some people when I say that. I don't know, because there's some really crappy stuff that happens in the world that I can't believe that there's a good reason for it. But I do believe that we can learn from everything that happens. I do believe that we can look at ourselves and use that opportunity to grow. If something bad happens to you or to somebody you love, maybe you can learn from it and figure out how to change it, if not for yourself, but for somebody else. So that's kind of where I am now. It took a long time to get there, man. It really did. Like you said, I didn't get into counseling until I was 35 years old. And, I was abused from the time I was about 12 or 13. I don't really remember when it started because it was a process. I was groomed into it. So it was from about the time I was 12 or 13 up till the time I left for the Army when I was 18 years old.
And I like how you form that with the glass half empty and half full, because I never really thought of it that way. So thank you for saying that, because you know what? We get what we put out there, Paul, right? And I think I speak for you also when I say that. Like, you get what you put out. If you put out positivity, gratitude, if you put out good things and you just genuinely want to make a difference in the world, things are going to happen for you, right? They're going to happen for you. But if you put that negativity, that mindset out there that, you know what was me? I did this, I did that, instead of saying, you know what, this could happen for me. I was that person that always blamed everybody for my faults. I always blamed everybody for my addiction. I blamed everybody for being depressed. If you were around me, you were getting blamed for something, right? And as an addict, that's what we do, So I learned, but I didn't know that, right? Until I started my recovery. To this day, yeah, we're human beings. We're going to get depressed. We're going to have some stress, but it's just a matter of, and I think this is where the personal development comes in for us, is that we don't let it ruin our day, right? It might ruin a minute or two of our day, but it's not going to ruin our entire day. So for me, the personal development is huge, even not just for business and stuff. It's for your depression, for your anxiety, for your stress levels.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speak a little bit about the personal development and how that's really helped you deal with things, because I know it's helped me a great deal.
Yeah, it definitely has. And, just to kind of go back to one of the things you said was, we're going to have these things, anxiety, depression. The big difference for me, and this is where we started with, hey, we're tough guys, right? Yeah. The big difference for me is now I know it's okay to talk about this stuff. I have my wife and my best friend, that when I'm feeling that, I can say to her, hey, feeling a little bit anxious about them. I might be feeling a little bit depressed lately. I can talk to somebody. You bury those things and they just damage you, man. I got of guys from my local networking group that we're kind of accountability partners. And, we all know we have a problem, call somebody. If you're feeling like you're not into it today and there's something you need to get done, call me. And just tell me you're having a bad day and you need somebody to talk to, and we're there for each other. That was unheard of, years ago. Was, you call your buddy and say, hey, I'm feeling a little bit down today, a little disconnected from the world, a little lonely. Like, what?
Dude, really?
It's important to have somebody to talk to. And I would say to anybody, find somebody that you can talk to, because when you don't, you just bury that stuff. But the self-development has been so key. People like Tony Robbins, that, a lot of people will say, oh, he's a feel-good guy. Well, I was in a room with him once where one of the most impactful things that I heard him say, and he was talking to a woman who was having an issue with a relationship with her father. Now, her father wasn't the best guy on the planet, and she kept getting hurt by him because every time she tried to repair their relationship, he acted in ways that disappointed her. And Tony looked at her and said, has he ever acted any differently? And she said, no. He said, do you have any reason to expect that he ever will? And she said, not really. He said, so the only reason you're getting hurt is your own expectations. If you want a relationship with this person and you can accept who they are and how they are, and you can have that relationship, that's how you're going to have to do it. Because if you constantly expect them to change to make you happy, you're going to constantly be hurt and disappointed. And, kind of the message there that I took away was, I'm the only one responsible for my own joy, my own happiness. When you depend on other people to bring you fulfillment, to bring you joy, to bring you happiness, you're going to be disappointed. We're human, dude. We disappoint each other. Even people we love, we hurt each other. My wife and I are, she's my soulmate, man. But we have disagreements. We have arguments. Sometimes we don't see eye to eye. And sometimes feelings get hurt. And that's from somebody who loves me more than anybody else in the world. Do I think anybody else is going to be better than that? Don't expect other people to bring you happiness. And that's part of my, I choose happiness. That's me. That's not up to anybody else. That's up to me.
Like you said, happiness is a choice. We have a choice every single day to get up and be happy, or you could dwell on things that you're not happy about and make you miserable. or you could just move forward and make the best of everything. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. 2020 really put that into perspective for a lot of people, right? But you also can create your reality.
Not to say that there's not chemical issues. Not everybody's going to be happy all the time. And there are medical chemical issues with depression and anxiety that there are medications for. That's part of choosing your own happiness. I have been on antidepressants. I have been on anti-anxiety medication. It's not a lifelong thing, but when I need it, I see a doctor and I get treated. Because when I'm not feeling the way I know that I want to feel, I don't choose to wallow in it. I choose to do something about it. And that's part of being strong enough to admit that, hey, there's something wrong here and there's somebody who can help me with it.
Yeah. Speaking from somebody who's been on medication, I was on medication from 8 years old, probably until 6 years ago. I haven't been on any antidepressants since. I don't believe in them. That's my opinion. Because from what I've learned these past 7 years since I've been in recovery, that's my choice, really, is what it is. Yes, there is chemical imbalance there, and we do suffer from it. And like I said, I just choose not to let it ruin my entire day.
Right.
I'm going to get depressed. I know it. It's going to happen. Life isn't perfect, right? Life's going to happen, but it's just how I choose to. And that's when I read a book or I reach out to somebody and try to help them, right? Because that takes the focus off of myself. And that, for me personally, has helped me to get out of that depressed state, because I'm able to do that when in the past I would never thought about doing that, right? And I want to get back to the accountability and how important that really is. You have it with your wife, obviously. You have it with that group. I've found so many people, that I could reach out to that I know will be there for me. You being one of them, right? If I'm slipping in anything in my life, I know I have people that are there for me, that genuinely care and want me to succeed in any area of my life, right? So when I'm slipping, when I have a moment where I feel depressed, I feel anxious, I could reach out to somebody. I have so many people I could do that. And I never felt like I had that in the past, right? When I was dwelling on the negative. Now that I focus on the positive, I'm so grateful, right, that I have that support system. And that's one of the biggest keys, I think, for just being happy, right, is to have that support system. And I have it in my family, but having people outside of it that aren't really personally invested, I guess is the way to put it, right? Because they might see something when we have that conversation, right, that I don't see. Maybe that blind spot for that day I might be going through something. Like you buried what happened to you in your past. It wasn't until you were 35 years old, 34, 35, that you finally started to figure out, wait a minute, that was holding me back. And you didn't start talking to anybody until that age. So you didn't have anybody that brought that out in you that you just weren't capable of bringing out. So I think that's where the accountability really comes in and really helps.
Yeah. If you can get, a group of people, they say you become the 5 people you hang around with the most. Try to make sure you're around people that can lift you up, and don't put yourself in the company of people that are going to constantly drag you down. Now, be there for them, but don't spend all your time there. If you got somebody who's having a hard time and is they're down themselves, be there for them, but that's not where you want to spend all your time. Spend your time with people who uplift you, with people who believe in you more than you believe in yourself. That's the most powerful thing that I think I've come across in this world. I've had my wife, but I've also had in business, I've had mentors who saw more in me than I saw in myself, and said, hey, you can do this. The world is going to be a better place if you do. And to have somebody have that level of confidence in you when you don't have it in yourself, find those people, spend time with those people. Yeah,
it's a game changer when you find that circle of people that'll lift you up, that'll be there for you no matter what, that, have your best interests in heart. Let's end it with this, Paul. As far as the depression, the mental illness, all those things you went through, for you personally, what is the biggest tool that you utilize when you get into those moments that you could give some advice to somebody out there that might be hearing this, that might be struggling, specifically for a guy, right? Because that's really what this is about. This is about us men having the tough conversations that we didn't have in the past. What's the biggest thing really that you want somebody to take out of this conversation from your story that has helped you to be where you are today at 52 years old? You've come such a long way in the last few years. Can't imagine the past 18 years since you really started on this journey.
We joke, for Tracy and after Tracy. It's almost like I'm two completely different people. And, I had made the decision to make these changes in my life. And thank God I met her shortly after making that decision. She didn't decide for me, but she was there at the turning point for me. And the people I was running with 20 years ago would look at me today and go, who is this guy? They'd have no idea that I was even capable of being where I am today. Because of the crap I was involved in back there. But as far as the tools, number one is be self-aware. Whether you call it meditation, self-reflection, understand what your baseline is, understand what normal is for you, and reflect when you're not feeling that so that you can understand that there's something different. So the first is identify that there's something going on that I need some help with. And then number is, how much help do you need with that? It may just be a simple phone call to you, to me, to a friend to say, hey, having a tough time, man, let's get together for a cup of coffee. Let's talk it out. And that may be all you need. Or maybe you just need to pick up a book and read something inspirational that has something to do with what you're going through. Do a quick search online and find, something to read about what you're going through. But if it's bad and you don't think it's going away, get some therapy. That was a game changer for me. It wasn't lifelong for me. It was a short period of time to get through and help me see something in a different light, but it completely flipped a switch in my head with the exercises that I was able to go through and no longer hold myself responsible for what happened to me and get over being a victim and realize that I had the choice to transcend that. So, the therapy made a huge difference for me. So whether it's a professional or whether it's a close friend, family member, an accountability buddy, talk to somebody. If you're going through some stuff that you're having a hard time with, talk to somebody.
Yeah, I couldn't say it better myself. Speaking from somebody who always kept everything inside, once you let it out, and one piece of advice I could give is just forgive yourself. It starts with forgiving yourself, because you can't blame yourself for things that happen in your life. There are choices we make that we can do differently, but I know for me personally, I don't regret anything that has happened in my life, negative or positive, because I know for a fact I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for every single little step on that journey. Hit it right on the head, Paul. You feel like you're not okay, it's okay. Reach out. If you're watching this, I'm sure I could speak for Paul. Reach out to one of us. We will be glad to point you in the right direction, have a conversation, and help in any way that we can, because we don't tell our story for ourselves. We tell our stories to help others. I love having this forum, this podcast. It's been amazing, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And Paul, I'm truly blessed and humbled that you were able to join me today. I'm glad I was able to give you this forum because I knew that it was important to you. And, I'm really blessed. So I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart.
Hey, I appreciate it, Joe. Really, really happy that our paths crossed, and I love and appreciate you and the work you're doing. Katie's Mission is doing good work, and the fact that they grabbed you as their ambassador, they lucked out, man. So
thanks, brother.
Really, really happy for you. And again, thank you for the forum, but not just for me. Thank you for the overall Guy Talk platform, because the more people that you can get in here to share their stories, everybody's story is a little bit different. Somebody's going to connect with somebody. So the more stories we get out there, the more people that have lived through something similar are going to go, hey, I'm not alone. And that's a powerful feeling when you first realize I'm not alone, and it's okay not to be okay.
Absolutely. Great way to end it. Listen, Paul, I love you, brother. Thank you. And we'll do this again.
All right, man. Take care.
Okay.